Welcome back to the deep dive. We know you are incredibly busy navigating just a constant stream of information every single day.
Right, the information overload is very real.
Exactly. And you're here to get past all that noise and get straight to the mechanics of how things actually work.
Mhm.
So today, our mission is to decode a highly specific, very data-rich text that details the real-world costs and the rather profound financial implications of fleet GPS tracking. And we're looking specifically at the current year, 2026.
Yeah, and we are looking at a space that has evolved dramatically over the last few years. The source material we're analyzing today, it moves way past the basic logistics of just moving a vehicle from point A to point B.
Right.
It breaks down the exact mathematical reality of operating a commercial fleet today. We're going to translate some very dense, comprehensive numbers into tangible business outcomes for you.
And I have to say, when I first reviewed the data for this deep dive, my initial reaction to the baseline statistics was skepticism.
That's a pretty common reaction to these numbers, honestly.
Yeah, followed by this intense curiosity about where the money is actually bleeding from in these companies. Because the text presents this scenario involving a standard 20-truck HVAC fleet. And by installing modern tracking systems, a fleet of that size is suddenly reporting savings of over $66,000 a year.
It's a staggering figure.
It really is. My immediate thought was to question if that is guaranteed money, or if it requires a manager hovering over a dashboard all day, $66,000 in savings just from operational visibility is a massive structural shift for a local business.
It is a significant figure, and I think to understand how a business actually captures that revenue, we need to clarify exactly who this data is targeting, because the text isn't looking at enterprise long haulers today. It's strictly isolating the data for local mid-size operators.
Okay, so who exactly are we talking about here?
We are talking about businesses running anywhere from 15 to 200 service vehicles.
Ah, got it. So we're looking at the foundational math for the electrical rigs, the plumbing vans, the regional pest control setups, and the landscaping crews, the fleets that really handle the bulk of local commerce.
Precisely. The fleets where profit margins are traditionally the tightest, and where operational inefficiencies are often the hardest to track without some sort of technological intervention.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if we want to understand how a 20-truck operation claws back $66,000, we have to look at the initial capital outlay first. According to the text, in 2026, the core cost for fleet GPS tracking sits firmly between $20 and $45 per vehicle per month.
Which presents a rather modest barrier to entry, all things considered. But the variance between $20 and $45 is significant when you multiply it across dozens of vehicles over a multi-year timeline.
Oh, absolutely. That adds up fast.
It does. And the source material categorizes this pricing into a clear three-tier system. And it depends entirely on the density of the data a business owner actually wants to extract.
It reads very much like an enterprise software as a service model, or even just a tiered cell phone plan. Tier 1 is classified as basic GPS only, and this runs about $20 to $25 a month per vehicle. It's the absolute baseline.
Right, the entry level.
Yeah, you essentially get a dot on a map, the latitude and longitude of the truck, and perhaps a rudimentary speed readout.
And while that provides location, it lacks the analytical context necessary to make systemic changes to how a fleet actually operates. It's reactive data rather than proactive data.
Makes sense. Moving up the scale, we hit Tier 2. This is GPS plus fleet management, sitting at $25 to $35 a month. And this is where the platform transitions from just a simple map to a comprehensive management suite, right?
Right.
It includes things like dynamic routing, automated dispatching, and digital maintenance scheduling. And then finally, the text outlines Tier 3. GPS plus AI dash cams plus ELD, running $35 to $45 a month.
And just for clarity, for those who aren't dealing with interstate compliance daily, ELD stands for electronic logging devices.
Right, replacing the old paper logs.
Exactly. This is the hardware that replaced the old paper logbooks to track driver hours, keeping fleets legally compliant with federal fatigue and hours of service laws.
Okay, so that's the landscape. Basic NAP, full management, or the AI and compliance heavy hitter.
What's fascinating here is how the text grounds these monthly per vehicle costs into an annual tangible reality for a business owner rather than just leaving them as abstract monthly subscriptions.
Oh, the annual math.
Yes. The data models the cost of a mid-tier package, that $25 to $35 range for our benchmark 20-truck fleet. And that totals out to a specific investment of $7,200 per year.
I want to linger on that $7,200 figure for a second, because for a regional plumbing business or landscaping firm, allocating over 7 grand a year just to software and tracking hardware is a serious line item.
It really is.
It's not an incidental expense at all. It requires a fundamental belief from the owner that the technology will deliver a return that justifies that upfront drain on their cash flow.
It represents a major shift in mindset. It's moving from viewing fleet management as a fixed physical cost, buying trucks and buying gas, to viewing it as a variable data puzzle. You are purchasing an analytical tool with the expectation that it will identify and eliminate waste.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text highlights the 2026 Verizon Connect Fleet Technology Trends Report to demonstrate exactly how that waste is eliminated. We aren't just looking at theoretical improvements in company culture here.
No, not at all.
The data points to hard, bottom-line reductions in the three most volatile expenses a fleet operator faces: fuel, accidents, and labor.
And the report is very methodical in its breakdown. The percentages definitely warrant close examination. So the first metric is an 11 to 19% reduction in fuel costs.
An 11 to 19% discount on fuel is staggering. But the text makes it clear that this isn't simply achieved by an algorithm finding a route with, fewer left turns.
Right, it's much deeper than that.
It is about actively policing driver behavior that burns gas for zero financial return. The primary culprit being idling. I mean, think about it. If an HVAC technician finishes a residential job in the middle of July, gets back into their van, and just leaves the engine running with the air conditioning on for 45 minutes to fill out digital invoices or make phone calls, that is pure capital just evaporating from the gas tank.
Exactly. And with a Tier 2 system, the dispatcher receives an automated alert the moment that idle time exceeds a customized threshold, say 5 minutes.
That's brilliant, so you catch it in real time.
You do, and the intervention actually changes the culture of the workforce. When employees understand that idle time is actively monitored and quantified, the behavior self-corrects almost immediately.
They know they're on the radar.
Exactly. This brings us to a well-documented psychological phenomenon called the Hawthorne effect. People modify an aspect of their behavior simply in response to their awareness of being observed. And we see the Hawthorne effect most prominently in the second area of reduction detailed in the text.
Which is the accident costs, right?
Yes, an 11 to 15% drop in accident costs.
That makes perfect sense when you think about it. If a driver knows that the telematics device is measuring the G-force of their braking, the speed at which they take a corner, and their exact speed relative to the posted limit, they naturally become more defensive behind the wheel.
Yeah.
The aggression just naturally drops out of their driving habits.
And the physical wear and tear on the vehicles decreases in tandem with that accident rate. Fewer hard stops mean brake pads last longer. Less aggressive cornering extends the life of the tires.
And the downtime, too.
Exactly. Fundamentally, an 11 to 15% reduction in accident costs translates to fewer bent fenders, fewer shattered taillights, and most importantly, fewer days where a revenue-generating asset is sitting on a hydraulic lift in a repair shop instead of out in the field.
The third metric is the one that really demands attention, though. Up to a 13% reduction in labor costs. Labor is notoriously the most complex expense for a service business to rein in because it involves so much human unpredictability.
It is entirely unpredictable. A service call scheduled for 2 hours might take 45 minutes or might suddenly take 4 hours.
Exactly. But the text attributes this 13% labor reduction to route optimization and eliminating dead time. It is not necessarily about catching employees taking unsanctioned breaks. It's about geographic efficiency.
Right, it's about working smarter.
If a dispatcher knows precisely where all 20 trucks are at any given second, and an emergency service call comes in across town, they don't have to call 3 different drivers to figure out who is closest. The system identifies the nearest available technician who has the proper equipment in their van and just dynamically reroutes them. It squeezes the dead air out of the workday.
Maximizing the actual billable hours for the exact same payroll cost.
Exactly.
So we can now return to that $7,200 annual investment stake we established earlier for the Tier 2 system. When the authors of the text aggregate the 11 to 19% fuel savings, the 11 to 15% accident reductions, and the 13% labor optimizations, they arrive at the ultimate return on investment calculation for our 20-truck HVAC fleet.
A big reveal.
The combined annual savings is $66,800.
That is just wild. The math yields a 9.3x return on investment. For every dollar spent on the tracking system, the business is recouping over $9 in recovered capital.
It is a remarkable ratio.
We have to view that $66,000 through the lens of a local business operator, too. That figure fundamentally alters the trajectory of a company. I mean, it is enough capital to fund the salary of a new dispatcher or operations manager outright.
Or it could serve as the down payment and outfitting costs for 2 brand new service vehicles to expand their territory.
Right. Or, during a period of economic contraction, that $66,000 is the literal buffer between maintaining payroll and facing insolvency. It is survival money.
It is. The enthusiasm surrounding a 9.3x ROI is certainly justified by the data. However, the text introduces a crucial caveat here.
The catch.
Achieving that specific financial outcome requires a highly disciplined approach to the vendor ecosystem. The pricing models in the fleet telematics space are rarely as transparent as the initial marketing materials suggest.
The authors detail a watch list of hidden fees. And reading through it, it becomes clear that realizing the full $66,000 savings is entirely dependent on the buyer's ability to navigate a contractual minefield.
It is very much a minefield.
The vendors are acutely aware of how much capital their systems are saving these fleets, and their business models are designed to capture as much of that margin as possible. It's like signing up for a gym membership or a cable package, where the intro rate looks great until month 2.
The first structural hurdle the text identifies is the long-term contract. Vendors frequently advertise a highly attractive entry price, perhaps $20 a month per vehicle, but that rate is inextricably tied to a 3, 4, or even 5-year ironclad agreement.
Wow, 5 years in tech is an eternity.
It is. If a landscaping business loses a major municipal contract and needs to downsize its fleet from 20 trucks to 12, they are still contractually obligated to pay the software licenses for the 8 trucks they just sold.
That is brutal. And the hardware traps detailed in the source material are equally problematic. They follow a classic razor and blades economic model. A vendor might offer a competitive monthly software subscription, but mandate that the fleet uses their proprietary tracking units.
They won't let you buy your own.
Right. Rather than allowing the business to purchase the hardware outright or bring their own compatible devices, the vendor leases the units to the business at an inflated monthly rate for the duration of the contract.
And this strategy effectively locks the business into the vendor's ecosystem. Removing the proprietary hardware and wiring a completely new system from a competitor becomes so logistically and financially painful that the fleet owner simply accepts the ongoing lease fees.
They just give up and pay it.
Exactly. The text also highlights the prevalence of per-feature add-ons and overage charges. A fleet owner might purchase a Tier 2 package expecting a comprehensive suite, only to discover that integrating the digital maintenance scheduling module costs an additional $2 per vehicle per month.
And those overage charges are particularly insidious. The baseline contract might allow the GPS unit to ping the satellite or cellular network once every 2 minutes. But if the fleet manager decides they need higher fidelity data and changes the refresh rate to 30 seconds, they suddenly trigger massive data overage fees that can literally double their monthly invoice.
It happens all the time.
And that is before we even factor in the installation fees. A business owner signs the contract, anticipates their $7,000 annual cost, and is immediately hit with a heavy upfront invoice for a third-party technician to physically wire the trackers into the diagnostic ports of 20 different vehicles.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the $66,000 in annual savings is very real, but it is highly conditional. It demands that the business owner act as a highly shrewd procurement officer.
They really have to be on their guard.
They do. They have to read the fine print, negotiate away the proprietary hardware leases, model out the total cost of ownership over a 5-year horizon, and actively manage the platform to avoid data overages. The ROI is a reward for diligent management, not a passive guarantee.
So what does this all mean? We've explored the mechanics of basic tracking, the operational optimizations of fleet management, and the contractual hurdles of the vendor ecosystem. But the text culminates with an analysis of the absolute highest tier of this technology.
Tier 3.
Exactly. We have to examine Tier 3 AI dash cams, because the data suggests that at this level, the conversation fundamentally shifts from operational efficiency to existential corporate defense.
Moving to Tier 3, as the source notes, increases the monthly cost by an additional $10 to $20 per vehicle. And this is arguably the most critical technological evolution for commercial fleets in 2026.
We need to define what the text means by AI dash cams, because these are not standard cameras recording a continuous loop onto an SD card that a manager has to manually review after an incident happens.
Not at all.
This is active artificial intelligence processing visual data in real time. The internal camera is analyzing the driver's eyes, tracking head position, looking for the telltale signs of smartphone distraction or microsleeps.
It's incredibly advanced.
And the external camera is analyzing following distance, lane drift, and erratic movements by other vehicles. The system instantly flags risky behavior, uploads a 10-second clip to the cloud, and alerts the dispatcher.
The immediate feedback loop is incredibly effective at changing driver behavior. But its primary financial benefit, according to the text, is a 15 to 30% reduction in commercial insurance premiums.
That's a huge offset.
It is. Insurance carriers are so confident in the risk mitigation capabilities of AI dash cams that they heavily subsidize the technology through premium discounts. And that often covers the entire monthly cost of the Tier 3 upgrade.
The insurance discount is a phenomenal return on its own, but the text frames it as a secondary benefit compared to the actual value of the hardware. The source material introduces a statistic from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, the FMCSA, that changes the entire context of this deep dive.
It really does.
According to their 2026 data, the median nuclear verdict against commercial fleets is $51 million.
This raises an important question. What exactly constitutes a nuclear verdict, and why is it a primary concern for a local mid-size operation?
Right, because usually you think of that for massive corporations.
Exactly. In the legal sector, a nuclear verdict is broadly defined as a jury award that surpasses $10 million, typically stemming from catastrophic injury or wrongful death litigation.
Okay.
And the 2026 FMCSA data illustrates a terrifying trend. Juries are increasingly handing down these astronomical $51 million median verdicts, not just against massive multinational freight carriers, but against commercial fleets of all sizes.
It is the definition of an existential threat. If you're operating a family plumbing business with 15 vans, and one of your technicians is involved in a severe multi-vehicle collision, your company is an immediate target.
A massive target.
Plaintiff attorneys are acutely aware that commercial insurance policies carry significantly higher payout limits than personal auto policies. Furthermore, there is a well-documented psychological bias in the courtroom. Juries are inherently sympathetic to individuals involved in crashes with branded commercial vehicles.
The legal reality is incredibly harsh. In a complex collision without objective video evidence, the situation devolves into a he-said-she-said scenario between the commercial driver and the civilian driver.
And who usually wins that?
In those instances, the commercial fleet almost always loses the narrative battle in front of a jury, and they lose with catastrophic financial consequences. A $51 million judgment bypasses the commercial insurance limits and annihilates the business entity. It liquidates the company's assets, forces bankruptcy, and dissolves the entire operation.
It's just gone. And the authors of the text point out that the AI dashcam is the only viable defense against this dynamic.
The only one.
If a passenger vehicle aggressively cuts off your plumbing van on the highway and immediately slams on the brakes, causing an unavoidable rear-end collision, the traditional legal assumption is almost always that the rear vehicle was following too closely. But the AI dashcam provides an impartial, artificially intelligent witness. It delivers high-definition, time-stamped, telemetrically verified proof that your driver was maintaining a safe distance and acting defensively prior to the unpredictable actions of the other driver.
It completely reframes the cost structure of the technology. You are no longer evaluating the extra $10 or $20 a month as an operational expense to track driver lunch breaks.
No, it's way beyond that now.
You are purchasing a highly advanced $51 million insurance policy against a company-destroying lawsuit. The hardware is a literal objective shield in a highly litigious environment.
It is a remarkable progression of data. I mean, we started this deep dive by unpacking the relatively manageable $20 to $45 monthly cost per vehicle in 2026. We explored the mechanics of how tracking idle time and optimizing dispatch routes yields a staggering 9.3x return on investment, saving our benchmark 20 truck fleet over $66,000 a year.
It's a huge journey.
It is. We navigated the specific contractual landmines, the hardware leases, and overage charges that vendors use to reclaim those margins. And we concluded with the FMCSA data, revealing the $51 million reality of nuclear verdicts and the protective necessity of AI dash cams.
The source material condenses a highly complex technological and legal evolution into a very tight set of actionable data points for local businesses. It really demonstrates how layered the fleet management space has become.
The data in this text fundamentally changes the perspective on local commerce. The next time you are on your commute and a branded pest control truck or an electrical service van pulls up next to you at a traffic light, you have a completely different context for what you're looking at.
You definitely do.
You aren't just looking at a metal box full of tools. You are looking at a highly optimized, AI-monitored mobile data node, a vehicle that is actively fighting a multi-front war to save its parent company from exorbitant fuel waste, complex vendor fee structures, and the ever-present threat of catastrophic litigation.
It absolutely adds a layer of invisible complexity to the vehicles we share the road with every day. And as we conclude our analysis of this 2026 data, I want to leave you with a final thought to consider, built strictly from the metrics we've unpacked today.
Let's hear it.
If a $35 a month AI and GPS setup is quite literally the only thing standing between a multi-generational local family business and a $51 million company-destroying nuclear verdict, is fleet tracking actually about logistics and routing anymore? Or has it fundamentally evolved into the ultimate corporate survival tool of 2026?
That is the exact question this data forces us to ask. Thank you for joining us today, and we will see you on the next deep dive into the source material.